from WBAY TV. This is Action 2 News at 10. Coverage you can count on.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Cammy is off tonight. We're following breaking news near Pulaski where a school bus and a car have crashed and multiple emergency units are on the scene. That crash happened on Highway 29 at St. Augustine Drive. That's just south of Pulaski. Right now, Highway 29 is closed west of Highway 32. Police on the scene say the crash is quote-unquote horrific. Patrick Nelson joins us now live from the scene with the very latest. Patrick.
Bill, we're on the scene of what first responders are calling a horrible crash, and you can see why. Behind me, you've got volleyball players from Pulaski High School, JV and varsity. We're told that some of these girls were injured in the wreck tonight, but we haven't got the numbers specifically. That information coming from the Pulaski fire chief. Now, you can see where their bus ended up tonight after a crash on Highway 29. We still are working to learn details about the crash, but you can see here on the roadway on St. Augustine Road near 29, you still see some volleyball players, some parents, some firefighters, even Pulaski police here on the scene to make sure that some of these girls riding on the bus were okay. Now, there were some of the girls here leaving the scene with tears in their eyes, a very traumatic experience for them. And just on the other side of this white truck you see behind me, there is a car that is demolished to the point that I can't even identify what kind of a car it is. Now, again, I'll be working with first responders and the Pulaski fire chief to try to learn more information about what transpired here. But again, first responders, when we first got here to the scene, told us we needed to back up because this was a horrible accident. So certainly more details to come tonight, but we're learning that it was the varsity volleyball team and JV volleyball team for Pulaski High School traveling back to the school from Seymour. Again, there are some girls that are injured at the hospital tonight. We do not know what the extent is or the extent of the injuries inside of that car involved with the bus crash, but we'll work to get you that info on Action 2 News this morning. Back to you.
We're getting some new information about the breaking story we told you about at the top of the newscast. As we told you a few minutes ago, a school bus carrying Pulaski High School varsity and JV volleyball players was involved in a crash with a car about 9 o'clock tonight. The teams were returning from a match with Seymour. The crash happened on Highway 29 just west of Highway 32. The Pulaski fire chief tells us 18 total people were hurt. 11 people who were injured on the bus have been taken to the hospital by ambulance. Another 5, all students, were hurt but released to their parents. 2 people in the car were also injured. No word on the seriousness of those injuries. Highway 29 is closed west of Highway 32. We have a crew on the scene and we'll have full details tomorrow on Action 2 News this morning. A few minutes ago, we've learned that one person has died in that school bus crash in Pulaski. Brown County Sheriff's deputies say the passenger in the car has died. The driver is said to be in critical condition. No word on the condition of the 8 students from Pulaski High School that were transferred to the hospital. We'll be following this story and we'll bring you the latest tomorrow morning on Action 2 News this morning.
We have new information on that school bus crash. We've been following it since last night. One person was killed. At least 14 others were taken to the hospital after officials say a car slammed into the back of a school bus that was crossing Highway 29 near Pulaski.
The bus was carrying 25 people, including 21 students and 3 coaches from the Pulaski varsity and JV girls volleyball team. The crash happened around 9 last night at the intersection of St. Augustine Drive and Highway 29 in Pittsfield. Let's go now live to Michelle Clemens. She's out in front of Pulaski High School with new details this morning.
Kevin, the bus was traveling back here to Pulaski High School last night, and that's when the Shawano County Sheriff's Department says a 24-year-old Wausau area woman was killed and a 27-year-old Marathon man was critically injured when their car traveling on Highway 29 struck the back of the school bus. Authorities say 8 students were brought to the hospital and at least 5 more were taken to the hospital by their parents after being checked out at the scene. The school district says 6 students suffered non-life-threatening injuries. The sheriff's office says the bus was crossing Highway 29 when a car traveling on the highway hit the rear side of the bus.
Best we can tell is the bus was northbound on South St. Augustine and the passenger car was westbound on State Highway 29. But that again is also preliminary, but that is what it appears to be.
The girls volleyball team was returning from a game at Seymour High School. Today there will be counselors on hand here at Pulaski High School to talk to students.
Our students and coaches are incredibly resilient, and they really do seem to be relatively calm and collected considering the situation that occurred here.
A press conference was scheduled for this morning, so we're expecting more information to come in shortly. We'll be following the story today, and we'll bring you the latest information. Reporting live in Pulaski, Michelle Clemens, Action 2 News.
Michelle, thanks.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. While the cause remains unknown tonight, Shawano County authorities have identified the person who died in this deadly crash involving a Pulaski School District bus carrying the varsity and junior varsity volleyball teams. It happened just before 9 o'clock last night when authorities say a car struck the bus on Highway 29 right at St. Augustine Drive. The Shawano County Sheriff's Office now says 24-year-old Shannon Hall of Athens died at the scene. She was a passenger in the car. The driver, 27-year-old Justin Sizan of Marathon, suffered serious injuries. District officials say ambulances took 6 students to the hospital and then several others went on their own. All have since been released. Those injured students were told not to come to school today, and counselors were on hand for support to others. District officials say a crisis team will remain available for students and staff for several days.
Great first day of school, and then to have it capped off with this, it is an emotional, roller coaster in it.
So this is what the school bus looks like today. Shawano County authorities are not speculating about what caused this crash, as the State Patrol is currently inspecting the bus and Brown County officials are handling the reconstruction.
Despite the added support, students say it was a tough day at the classrooms of Pulaski High School today. Patrick Nelson live outside the high school with that part of tonight's top story. Patrick.
Good evening, Bill. When I spoke to students that were leaving Pulaski High School for the day, many of them say that they didn't actually know about the crash involving the school's volleyball team until they actually arrived here at school this morning. And many of them say they found out first thing in the morning, which set the tone today for the mood here on campus. When did you first hear about this?
This morning, my grandma told me it was on the news and everything.
What was your first reaction?
Oh no, because all my friends are in volleyball, and it's kind of worried.
Many students say that concern carried over into the school day.
Everybody knew that it happened. I think it's kind of, instead of being like something small that kind of gets overlooked, I think a lot of people noticed it and were a little bit worried about it. I heard people talking about it before school started.
The first thing students wanted to do was find their friends from Pulaski's volleyball team.
Some came to school, some stayed home, depending on how they were feeling emotionally. They were feeling they didn't really want to go back on the bus because they didn't know what was going to happen after that.
Leaving school, students say they're still thinking about their classmates and neighbors tonight.
We're all friends, everybody in the community, and we just feel for them and their families.
Now, along with that concern for their classmates, the fact that someone did in fact die in this crash here on Highway 29 and St. Augustine Road, the students that I talked to today said that makes it incredibly difficult, and they're really going to need to lean on one another in the days to come. Reporting live in Pulaski, Patrick Nelson, Action 2 News.
Patrick, thank you. Viewers have been telling us about the intersection where this crash happened last night. Many saying this is a dangerous spot in the road. Ellery McCardle joins us now live from Highway 29 and St. Augustine Road with what she's found out. Ellery.
Bill, the Shawano County Sheriff's Office tells me there have been 22 crashes at this intersection in just the past 3 years. And there are still reminders of last night's fatal crash. If you take a look over here, you can see the deep tire and muddy tire tracks left over by the bus after it was forced into this ditch. Now, given those numbers, Captain Tom Tuma of the Shawano County Sheriff's Office stopped short of calling this a dangerous intersection. I talked to a project developer at the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. She says an overpass is planned to be built here, spanning over Highway 29, connecting Highway 156 and St. Augustine Road. Construction is expected to start in 2017 and will cost between $3 and $3.5 million using state and federal funds.
Back around 2012, this intersection flagged as something we needed to look into more because of the level of crashes that we were seeing. And so we applied for funding for the project, and that's what initiated this project.
Now, the overpass was actually not the DOT's first option when it came to making this intersection safer. Coming up at 6, we'll tell you why residents pushed for a project change. Reporting live off Highway 29, Ellery McCardle, Action 2 News.
The Shawano County Sheriff's Office says it could have new information about a deadly school bus crash near Pulaski early next week. Authorities say 24-year-old Shannon Hall died and 27-year-old Justin Sizan suffered serious injuries when their car collided with a bus along Highway 29 on Tuesday night. The bus was carrying Pulaski High School volleyball teams, and several students suffered minor crash-related injuries. The district says most of the players are now back at school. The 74-year-old bus driver is on administrative leave, which is standard as that investigation continues. The couple involved in the crash was supposed to be married in October. With Shannon Hall's death, it's a tough time for the families and a pastor who saw the couple just before the crash. Ellery McCardle sat down with him to hear about the couple's life together.
When you ask questions, it comes out, and then I have to face it.
Pastor Earl Vorpagel knew this interview wouldn't be easy. He's still coming to terms with Shannon Hall's death.
I think what makes it especially hard is that you're going from this intense celebration of life to the sudden shock of death in a matter of a few hours.
A couple hours before this crash Tuesday night, he was in a marriage counseling session with Hall and her soon-to-be husband, Justin Sizan.
They were very, very family-oriented. And, you know, in fact, they said that was one of the major things that drew them to each other, is that they came from strong families. They'd always had that love and support, and they were now preparing themselves to do the same thing.
After the meeting, the usual small talk and jokes before their goodbyes.
The only word I can think of was sweet to each other. You know, you could see and hear kindness and compassion and love in the way that they talked to each other.
The next morning, Vorpagel got a call. Justin was in the hospital. Shannon died after their car collided with this Pulaski school bus. Vorpagel is still coming to terms with the loss. He says so are Justin and Shannon's families, but community support is helping. A difficult time for many, but this story gives us all a reminder.
Tell the people that you love them and why you love them.
Ellery McCardle, Action 2 News.
New information today on the deadly bus crash near Pulaski. The Shawano County Sheriff's Office confirms it asked the District Attorney's Office to review the case for possible criminal charges. Investigators say a school bus for the Pulaski District was carrying the volleyball team members when it pulled out in front of a car. 24-year-old Shannon Hall of Athens was killed just weeks before her wedding. Her fiancé survived. Final report shows the bus driver was cited twice for failing to yield. Online court records show citations issued to the bus driver have been dismissed, making way for possible criminal charges.